Ever listen to a jazz pianist and think, how are they doing that? How are they getting such a full sound with only 10 fingers?
Yeah.
It's like they've got this musical magic trick going on.
Okay.
And in this deep dive, that's what we're doing. We are breaking the magician's code.
I like that.
We're going to unlock the secrets of jazz piano harmony.
Okay.
And specifically this idea of chord stacking.
You're right.
Now, to help us with all this, we have with us our resident jazz harmony expert.
Happy to be here.
So what's like the most important thing for us to keep in mind as we go into this?
Well, I think you're spot on with this whole magician's code idea.
Oh, yeah.
Because what might seem really, really mysterious at first, it's really a system,
Okay.
like an elegant system. Once you kind of see how all the pieces fit together.
Okay.
So imagine, like, instead of just individual notes, you're thinking about layering entire chords on top of each other.
Whoa.
Like, what if you heard, like, not just one flute playing,
Okay.
but like a whole flute section of an orchestra, and they're all playing the same melody, but with different notes, creating this really interesting harmony.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like that with jazz piano,
Yeah.
except we're using chords instead of individual notes.
Okay, so we're layering chords.
Exactly.
I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
So the source material we gave you for this deep dive is a YouTube video by a pianist named Jeff Schneider.
Right.
And he's got this really cool, approachable way of breaking down this whole chord stack system.
He really does.
So where does he even begin?
Well, he actually starts with something that you probably already know, triads.
Okay, try it.
Yeah, those like 3-note chords
Yeah.
that are kind of like the building blocks of a lot of Western music.
Right, exactly.
And what Schneider does is he shows you how you can take these basic triads that a lot of us know
Yeah.
and stack them on top of each other to create these much more complex jazz-flavored chords.
Oh, wait.
And he uses the classic 2-5-1 progression in C major to illustrate this.
Okay.
But instead of just using like basic triads, he's going to spice things up a little bit.
Okay, how so?
So instead of just a plain D minor triad, he might play like a D minor 11.
Which already sounds more complex.
Right.
And jazzy.
Exactly. And it's that added complexity that kind of gives jazz that unique harmonic richness.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does he make that D minor 11? Like, how do you get there from just a regular triad?
So it's actually pretty elegant.
Okay.
So think of it like this. You've got your D minor triad,
Okay.
which is the notes D, F, and A.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to take a C major triad, C, E, G, and just stack it right on top.
Oh, wow.
And boom, you got a D minor 11.
Okay, so you're literally just like putting one on top of the other. I can
Yeah.
already kind of hear it in my head.
Right.
It's so cool how these two familiar chords are now like hanging out together,
Yeah.
creating this totally new sound.
And that's just the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he goes on to show how this stacking idea applies to other chords in the progression,
Okay.
like the C major 9.
Okay, the C major 9, which in this case is going to be...
You guessed it, another stack.
Okay.
This time, it's a C major triad on the bottom with a G major triad stacked on top.
Wow. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so maybe it is kind of like a magic trick,
Yeah.
but now I'm starting to see how the trick works, and honestly, that's cooler.
Right.
Like, I'm in on it now,
Yeah.
and it's not just about being able to replicate these chords.
Exactly.
Like, that's not the main takeaway.
Yeah, it's more about the principle.
It's about understanding the why.
Exactly.
And once you get that, you start to hear everything in a new light.
Absolutely.
So you're saying even if we don't have a piano in front of us,
Yeah.
understanding this concept of chord stacking can actually like change how we listen to jazz music.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. When you listen to jazz now, it's really easy to get overwhelmed by the complexity.
Oh, for sure.
But imagine if you could listen again, and this time you could actually hear those individual triads within those bigger chords.
Right.
It's like your brain can start to untangle the threads of the music and understand the structure underneath.
Untangling the threads.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
So we've got these basic triads, which are kind of like our primary colors.
Okay.
And then with this chord stacking, it's like we're mixing those primary colors to create all these new vibrant shades of jazz harmony.
Yeah, exactly. And just like with mixing colors, there are endless possibilities.
Right.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like we're mixing colors.
Okay.
And just like mixing colors,
Yeah.
we have techniques in jazz harmony
Yeah.
that give us even more possibilities than just basic stacking.
Okay. Like what? Don't leave me hanging here.
Like inversion.
Inversions.
Yeah, it's kind of a fancy word,
Okay.
but it's a simple concept.
Okay.
So instead of always playing the triad in its basic form, with the root note on the bottom,
Right.
you can rearrange the notes.
Oh, okay.
So in a C major triad,
Yeah.
instead of playing C, E, G, you might play E, G, C
Okay.
or G, C, E.
And that changes the sound, even though it's the same notes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's the same three notes. Inverting them changes which note is in the bass,
Right.
which affects the overall texture and feel of the chord.
Oh, wow.
So it's like taking that same shade of blue that we were talking about
Yeah.
and like making it darker or brighter or more muted or more vibrant just by like shifting things around a bit.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, and Schneider actually demonstrates this in the video.
Oh.
And hearing him play those variations really makes it click.
So with chord stacking, we're choosing our colors,
Yeah.
and then inversions are like choosing different brushstrokes.
Yeah, I like that.
So it gives the music like a different texture.
Right, exactly.
Different feel.
It's this mastery of both the colors and the brushstrokes, that allows jazz pianists to create such a wide palette of sounds and emotions.
This reminds me of something that's always kind of fascinated me about jazz.
Okay.
You've got all this incredible complexity,
For sure.
but it's not random.
Right.
Like, these musicians aren't just hitting keys willy-nilly. There's a method to this madness.
Absolutely there is.
So what's the method?
So a big part of that method, besides chord stacking and inversions,
Okay.
is understanding intervallic relationships.
Okay, intervallic relationships. That sounds kind of intimidating.
No, it's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually simpler than it sounds.
Okay.
So an interval is basically just the distance between two notes.
Okay.
Like from C to D, that's an interval of a major second.
Mm-hmm.
C to E, that's a major third.
Okay.
So in jazz harmony, understanding these intervals is really key to being able to transpose those chord stacks that we were talking about into different keys.
Oh, okay. So if I know how to play a D minor 11,
Yeah.
I can use that knowledge to play like an F minor 11 or a G minor 11.
Precisely. Yeah, because what matters is not like the exact names of the notes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the relationship between them,
Okay.
the relationship between those notes.
Gotcha.
And Schneider really emphasizes this in the video. He talks about, like look for the distance between the root of the bottom triad and the root of the triad that you're stacking on top.
So like with our D minor 11 example.
Yeah.
So the root of our bottom triad is D.
Right.
The root of that C major triad we're stacking on top is C.
Yeah.
So what's the interval there from D to C?
So from D down to C, that's a minor second.
Okay.
And that relationship, that minor second, is what you would maintain.
Right.
If you wanted to transpose that D minor 11 to a different key.
Okay.
So if you wanted to play like an Eb minor 11,
Yeah.
you would start with your Eb minor triad,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would stack a D, B major triad on top.
Okay.
Because from Eb down to D is also a minor second.
Whoa, it's like a code.
It is. It's kind of like speaking a different language.
But once you know the key, then it all just falls into place.
Exactly. And what's even cooler is that once you start thinking in terms of these intervals and these relationships,
Yeah.
you start to see these same patterns pop up in like all sorts of jazz standards. Yeah, it's like you've unlocked this secret level in the game of jazz.
That aha moment.
Yes.
Where it all suddenly makes sense. It's
Right.
You go from hearing this jumble of notes to hearing the structure underneath it.
That's the beauty of it. And that's what Schneider's video does so well.
Yeah.
It just demystifies these concepts and makes them accessible to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be like a virtuoso pianist
All right.
to understand the magic of jazz harmony.
And that leads us to a really crucial point.
Okay.
You don't have to be a musician to get something out of this. Like, I'm someone who can barely play chopsticks on the piano.
Right.
But even I'm finding this fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like I'm learning this whole new language.
It is.
But instead of words, it's chords and intervals.
Exactly. And it's like learning any new language, right?
Yeah.
It opens up this whole new world of understanding
Totally.
and appreciation.
For sure.
So even if you never sit down at a piano,
Mhm.
knowing even just a little bit about, chord stacking and inversions and intervals,
Yeah.
it can just completely change the way that you experience jazz music.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you're suddenly in on the secret.
Right.
You can hear those like individual voices within the harmony.
Yeah.
You feel the tension and the release.
Yeah.
The way those chord changes kind of pull you along.
Exactly.
It's like being on a roller coaster.
It is.
Now, I know we're like focusing on piano here,
Yeah.
but this idea of chord stacking, this isn't just a piano player thing, right?
Oh, you're totally right. This is like the language of the whole band.
Okay.
So like the bass player, the horn players, the
Yeah.
drummer,
Yeah.
they're all hearing those same chord changes, those same stacked triads.
Oh, wow.
They might be playing different notes, different rhythms,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all grounded in that same like harmonic foundation.
So even when someone's taking a solo,
Right.
they're not just like randomly noodling around.
Exactly. They're still speaking that same
Yeah.
harmonic language,
Yeah.
maybe with a little bit of a different accent.
Yeah. Just riffing on the same idea.
Exactly. And that's what makes those jazz improvisations so incredible,
Yeah.
because they're creating something spontaneous in the moment,
Hmm.
but it's all like built on this foundation of shared understanding.
It's like they're having this conversation,
Totally.
but instead of words, it's musical phrases,
Yeah.
chord voicings, rhythmic interplay.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a conversation that can be incredibly complex and nuanced.
For sure.
But at its heart, it's still rooted in those basic building blocks,
Yeah.
melody, harmony, and rhythm.
It's like that Duke Ellington quote.
What's that?
It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe we could add a corollary.
Okay.
It don't swing so hard if you don't know the chords.
I love it.
So to everyone listening, the next time you put on some jazz,
Yeah.
don't just let the sound wash over you.
Right.
Like really listen for those stacked triads,
Yeah.
the inversions, the intervallic relationships.
You might be surprised how much richer the music becomes when you start to hear those things.
And if you do play an instrument,
Yeah.
consider this like your invitation
Okay.
to go even deeper.
Yeah.
Pick a jazz standard that you love.
Okay.
Grab your instrument and just see if you can start to break down those chords.
Yeah.
Listen for the stacks.
Yeah.
Experiment with different inversions.
I love it.
You might just unlock a whole new side of your own musicality.
For sure.
That's an invitation worth accepting.
It is.
And you know what? Even if you don't consider yourself a musician at all,
Yeah.
you can still take these concepts and apply them to your own life.
Absolutely.
Think about how you can stack those simple ideas on top of each other
Yeah.
to create something new and unexpected.
Love it.
Or how just changing your perspective a little bit.
Like inverting a chord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can totally transform how you see something.
I love that.
It's all about finding those hidden connections, those
Mhm.
unexpected harmonies.
Yeah.
Yeah?
In everything that you do.
Beautiful.
And on that note,
Chuckles.
I think we've reached a pretty harmonious conclusion ourselves.
I agree.
So until next time, happy listening.
Yeah.
And keep those ears tuned for those chord stacks.
That's